special meeting of the Select Board. Goffstown Select Board, please join me in Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which I stand, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is to discuss the road plan and the Laurel Ivy Wall on Hill Street and any other business that may come before the board, which I don't know we have any.
If you could just start off with a roll call.
Sure.
That'd be great.
And we'll start with Josh. Josh.
Joshua Douglas.
Yeah.
Mark
Can you
LeMay.
hear me?
Pete George.
Yeah, we can hear you, Josh.
Jim Craig.
Richard Manzo.
Okay. So I think the objective of tonight's meeting was to try to see if we could come up with some kind of a plan to maybe get started on the Laurel Ivy Wall and Hill Street and review the expenditures. Do we have any of those? And
So what I have shared with all the board members is kind of a joint memo with information from both Finance and DPW. This was sent out to all members, but what it has is on the second page of the memo, we do have some savings through the first 5 months of 2025. The largest savings that we have currently is approximately $114,000 for the first 21 pay periods. This was in the townwide insurance benefits line. This is for unspent that are due to retirements, resignations, and vacancies, and insurance opt-outs. We would not recommend anticipating any other savings in that line because you could have employees that we budgeted at a single that has a change, that has a qualifying life event where all of a sudden they have to go to a two-person or a family plan, and we would not have those funds available. So, but we have $114,000, and then Adam has identified $70,000 in what he's calling discretionary line items. These are mostly maintenance items that he budgets for. This would be roadside mowing, catch basin cleaning and jetting, and knotweed treatments. And then you have a large sheet from Adam of kind of the road work, the remaining road work that was kind of put on a stop a couple weeks ago, as well as the different sections of reclamation that in the Laurel, Ivy, and Wall Street neighborhoods, and the amount of square yardage and estimated cost. And Adam can talk more about that or answer questions.
So can I,
Jim, go right ahead.
so I looked at this afternoon, and the money that you've described totals $184,000, and we were talking about doing Laurel Street for $306,000, and so assuming we could take that $184,000, and then the rest of the money, I guess, would have to come out of the large sheet here, and you said somewhere that we should start from the bottom, and if we're going to take that or not do those projects right away. So what I understood was $184,000, and then we took the Terrell Hill for $52,000, Ashland Drive for $29,000, and Knoll Crest $39,000, and apply it to the Laurel Street, and that's like $304,000, something like that. Is that?
If you wanted to get there, sorry, I just want to make sure that was me, not Dirk. If you wanted to get to the full amount for full Laurel Street, yes, you'd have to do something like that arrangement.
And starting from the bottom, when you said starting from the bottom, that's what you meant, right? Use those.
That's correct,
Because
yep.
you've already started on the upper ones, right?
That's
Work
right.
done on. Okay, so
So let me get to what the intention is. I think the intention is first to figure out what we want to do, or if we can do it. Now, is it, when you're talking, Jim, are you just talking about doing Laurel Street? Because the whole project was $800,000 for the three, I mean, I'm sorry, almost $600,000 500 and, what's that,
All right.
583.
583. Is
Right,
it your
I meant-
intention to try to find $583,000?
No, I thought we were looking at doing Laurel Street for 306,000, and I thought that that was a pretty good trade-off, so that Adam can do the stuff, you know, some of the stuff that he was planning on doing, identified up at the top there, and we could do a good chunk of what was asked of us in Pinard, which we all know needs it. So that's my preference, unless somebody should talk me out of it.
We're not talking.
No, I know,
We're
but
here to
that's-
discuss it.
that's
I'm
what-
concerned about where the 70,000 is coming from. Is that doing away with those projects?
Pretty much. We have a little bit more in roadside, so we contract roadside mowing, we contract catch basin cleaning and pipe jetting, and we contract knotweed treatment. Knotweed treatment is not a very big contributor to that. We've got about $6,500 remaining for this year, so we've already paid for permitting and part of the spring treatment, which is about to happen. But the two biggest contributors would be roadside mowing and catch basin cleaning. We have open POs now for $60,000 for roadside mowing townwide and $27,000 for catch basin cleaning and pipe jetting. Both of those items prevent more costly future work, obviously. Catch basin cleaning would be the last thing I would want to cut because we only get a portion of the town each year with our contracted work, and we try to rotate around. So some of these catch basins aren't seeing any cleaning for a couple of years. So we would want to keep as much money in there as we can. Roadside mowing, we'd have to taper down to get to that 70-ish that I said we could kind of combine those two by just attacking the highest profile spots that always receive a lot of calls, the Wallace at Shirley Hill, corners, that kind of thing, where there's sightline issues. The problem is every intersection potentially could be a sightline concern, so it's hard to have a contractor bounce around all over town. A lot of the time you're paying him now will be to transit from one section to the other, but I would strongly encourage we don't steal from or borrow from those lines. If the board's looking to use some funds to get any portion of Laurel Street done, because it is, I hate to say penny wise, pound foolish, but it's money well spent in the long run if we're not cutting trees or having a future drainage ditch maintenance because we haven't mowed in 2 or 3 years, that kind of thing. So
that 70,000 is what's left after the contracts you've already given.
it is, if we cancel the existing contracts and only taper down to like the most emergent portions of.
And how much is the licensing? See, we already paid for a license.
For the knotweed, I think we've paid $2,150 for the permitting for that,
So that would be money wasted, more or less.
if we did no treatments, correct.
Okay. Mark, you
What are those treatments for? I'm sorry for my ignorance.
Invasive knotweed, Japanese knotweed. It's kind of, folks call it bamboo. Sometimes it's all the really nasty stuff that spreads quickly all around town. You can kind of see it as it starts to flower. It's normally big green leaves, and then when it flowers, it's got little white buds. But if you don't keep after treatments of that, you can't mow it, and DES best practices tell you not to cut it because even a little chunk can regenerate. It's a strange growing invasive. So if you don't keep on top of it, very quickly towns have found themselves, town line to town line inundated with this.
And how long have we been doing this knotweed treatment?
We had a couple years off where the treatments had given us a little bit of leeway. I think probably 7-8 years maybe total, on and off a couple years, but it is effective when we do spray.
How much of that 70 was devoted to knotweed?
So of the knotweed, it's a fairly small chunk. We've got just under 6,500 left for the actual treatments. If you're scraping nickels, one thing we could talk about would be to do just a spring treatment instead of a spring and a fall. Some of the fall treatment is focused on areas that might have been missed or undersprayed when they treated in the spring. They'll still be green. So potentially, if you know, you want to save a couple $1,000s, we could do just a single treatment.
Mark, Chairman, any questions?
What would the total cost for Laurel Street be if we were to do it? Because I'm assuming that we have to do sewerage or drainage in there as well, correct?
That's correct, yep. So that 306,000 estimate is based on the square yardage and what it's cost us to do the other streets adjacent to in that neighborhood, soup to nuts. So drainage, reclaim, paving, loam seed, you know, that, the whole line. Just to add a topic of conversation, I've got the note there for Laurel Street itself, that first piece of drainage to get us up to the crossover from the Ivy Wall neighborhood at 117 would be fairly close to what the insurance savings is. So if there's some savings in other areas, you know, that first 900, I think it is, feet of Laurel Street only has 7 houses on it, but that's, for that neighborhood, that's the very first thing we have to do is at least that much before we can even talk about anything on the adjacent streets on Ivy Wall.
So it's, what you're saying is we need to, Laurel needs to be done first.
It does, at least until that number 41, which is where the drainage from the side streets comes from, or will go to when we, you know, add the collected area.
Which one's worse, Adam? Ivy or Wall?
Shades of terrible. Ivy is worse. It gets more traffic. It's also longer. But there are probably more houses that would benefit from the future drain connections, private drain connections, for some pumps and that sort of thing on Ivy as well.
That's what I'm wondering. I'm looking at the amounts here. Would it make more sense to start off with doing the drainage work on Laurel and then hook up one of those side streets so that way, you know, we start to get some of that runoff out of there?
I don't know who's in the room with us now. It just depends, I suppose, which street residents you talk to, because definitely both Laurel and Ivy Wall, they all need it. There's the biggest contributor, you know, at the bottom of the hill is going to be from Laurel, just because it's longer and there's more surface area to catch.
So let me ask
Which
you a
one
question.
has the safety concern with the makeshift drain that's on the street? I can't remember if it's Ivy or Wall.
That one's right at the corner of Ivy and Wall, so it kind of affects travelers of both, I guess.
You all set, Josh?
I am, sorry.
All right. You're talking about, let's say, we're talking to $306,000. That's what you were looking at, right, Jim?
Yep.
If you did, would it be more advantageous to do the other 3, which is approximately 280 or 277, do those first because you're accomplishing more, or does it make any sense? Is it detrimental not to do it that way?
Unfortunately, if you think about that whole neighborhood like a funnel, lower Laurel Street, so everything from 41 and below is the small end of the funnel. So if you don't do that part first, you don't have anywhere to. We're going to increase there will be increased runoff, but also increased contribution from the new private drain connection. So we really need to do that lower piece of Laurel to give everything else a place to go. Otherwise.
And so does the whole street need to be done, or could you do part of Laurel and maybe finish off Heald? Heald's one we only did part of, right?
Heald is because where it sits geographically, it's the top of the hill, and it's split in the middle. So on the proposed plans, half of the new Heald drainage will come down Laurel Street, and half will come down Ivy Street, just based on where it intersects with both streets. So Heald either way is got to be near the end. If for some reason we had more than 306,000, I could do all of Laurel Street and a portion of Heald that drains onto Laurel, or we could do until number 41 Laurel, cut across, do the very bottom of Ivy and Wall. It's really kind of choose your adventure at that point.
I'll say, so I suggest, this would be my suggestion, is we come up with a dollar amount that we can spend, right? this is what our objective is tonight, is to find monies. We find out, the dollar amount that we could spend, and then we say, okay, Adam, you have this amount of money to deal with, and fix what you believe is most critical. Would that be a decent approach?
I think I'm in agreement with Jim's initial line of thinking here to target a specific street, and I think that would be Laurel. And I'd like to ideally, keep a plan here where Laurel and Mass Road are both in the end plan.
Well, that's over $500,000. We don't have that kind of money.
I mean, looking at these, you do.
Well, how-
If we focus on those two roads in particular,
Where?
Well, if you cut everything out.
308 plus 222
Huh?
is less. 308,000 is less than. 308,000 or 306,000. Plus the 222,000 is far less than the 697 that we're talking about.
But we don't have 697.
We do. Right now, with the approved plan, with what we had available for new 2025 work, you have enough for the 697 for that top half. So
Just for the top half.
just for the top half. So if you want to tackle
So it doesn't
anything,
do all of Laurel?
if you did nothing else, yes.
Nothing
So-
else as far as?
So you'd have to start taking more roads off your approved for April 14th list
Okay.
in order to fund anything in that bottom half of that spreadsheet, which is the Laurel Ivy Road.
So,
But that's kind of the position that we're already in, talking about this at all. 306,000 is almost half of the entire outstanding budget.
exactly.
Which is why I didn't recommend any reclaim at all. With a limited budget, you really.
The problem is that what you're talking about is, we have other streets on there too, so what do? Do we then send them letters and say we're not doing N Street, and we go through the same thing again? Or we try to do something,
But
which is maybe, like Jim said, do the 306,000 on Laurel, get that part done, and then next year we'll work on the rest of it. I don't think you can stop everything else just to fix that section. Because there's already commitments that have been made and started.
I hear you, but that's true of the entire plan that we approved.
Okay?
So that logic justifies changing nothing, not something.
No, what we did, we're finding funds, is what we're working on, right? And we're trying to find the funds that we can do something. Now, we're trying to find $306,000.
Yes.
And that's what Jim's feelings were, to find $306,000. Now, we know budget-wise, we found, what was it, 177 or
184,000.
184,000. So now we just need to find the rest. And if,
So what's the matter with not doing these projects at the bottom of the list?
no, I'm not saying not to. I'm not, you can't take the whole, use that
No,
whole
no, but-
697, which is Richard
But
wants.
you wouldn't, no, you wouldn't need to. You would only need to make up the gap between the 100 and,
Which is still $500,000.
no, we're to target 306,000?
No, yeah.
No. If you want to do that whole thing like you were just saying,
Yeah,
but
but
you want to do, you
no,
want to,
if we're trying to find 306,000 more, all we have to do is make up the gap between the 150, let's call it, and the 306.
306 minus 184, and then
That means lopping off part of this,
start from the
Top
bottom of the list.
table. Exactly.
That's-
I'm,
So you take,
I-
we got 184,000 from those other
Right.
savings. And then
you want to lop off,
the bottom of the list.
yeah, I get that. But
And then-
how much you trying to get to? You're trying to get.
306.
Well, that's fine. That's what I've been trying to say. We do that.
Okay. Well, okay.
I
No.
thought you were talking about trying to get to the whole.
No.
The Mass Road, the Mass Road's another
But Mass Road-
222,000.
Mass Road's at the top. We're not starting there. We're starting at the bottom and working our way up. 306 and Mass Road can both be in this plan.
Right, and some of the other ones too.
Indeed.
So,
I actually would recommend that we not do all of Laurel, and we only focus on the 117. and maybe do ivy or wall, come in at a lower amount, because I believe the last couple of years we've actually been over budget in this area, correct?
Correct.
So I would say that we try to get under the 300,000 for this year to make sure that there's no major gotchas.
Can I
Can-
make maybe a
Go ahead.
food for thought? If the least painful thing to pull from the approved list there at the bottom is that Tyrrell Hill treatment, this would be the first time we've done such a preventive treatment, which is normally years ahead of when we would normally be looking for an overlay. That is something that a delay of a year on a fog seal is not going to make a huge difference. It will not, you won't have any residents similar to these at your door if I send them letters now and say, just kidding, we are not going to do Goldfinch or Ashlar. And that would be another 50,000.
So that gives us up to 236.
I would argue maybe if we wanted to split the difference on the discretionary items that I gave you, if I could still get some headway on catch basin cleaning and roadside mowing, that'd be good, but I get it if we need to steal it. But those are areas that, catch basin cleaning, for example, a clogged catch basin, albeit due to woody debris, is what led to the minor destruction we saw on Wallace Road a couple weeks ago. So it can create a pretty bad situation pretty quickly if we don't keep those maintained where the catch basins are filling up. So it would be nice to have some.
Yeah, so if we did the 117, and let's just say we did ivy, that gets us to 235.
Correct.
But may I ask,
Go ahead, Jim.
there's Ivy, that part that says Laurel, Ivy, and Wall, it says you cannot construct until other things are done, correct? So my question is, if you had all the money in the world, would you start with Laurel Street anyways?
I personally would like to try to get as much of a single road done, if not all of it, as possible. So if you said, Adam, you've got $200,000, I would start at the bottom at Laurel, get the drainage that's required for anything else above it done, and then I would keep going up Laurel because you get the most bang for the buck with the way the houses are pretty congested on Laurel versus Lower Ivy, which is a little bit more spread out. So you'd impact the most residents putting all the money towards Laurel, whatever that amount is. 117 would be the minimum if you want to even talk about anything else on Ivy or Wall, because the crossover pipe is that level.
So how
Yeah,
about,
but Adam, your comments in two sections say Laurel and ivy need to be done first, the drainage area. Is it all the drain of Laurel, or is it just the lower portion?
So for Heald, it's Laurel and Ivy, depending on what part of Heald you're talking about. For Ivy and Wall, it's just the lower Laurel drainage.
can't very well do away with not going on, like Addison, the driveways and joints have already been milled down for paving. I mean, that's kind of, you've already started that project. Is that accurate?
Not without spending some money to undo what's been done. We'd have to patch in those areas.
Yeah, that makes no sense. We put good money into bad.
So, but we don't even have to look at the first four streets on this.
No.
The ones below that all add up to more than enough to do Laurel Street.
I think the bottom three.
In combination with that other.
No, I agree with you. We do Laurel Street. We find the money to do Laurel Street.
And the bottom three of this top chart provide enough money, like $2,000 less than 306.
And those are the, do it.
52, 29, 39,
You're starting
plus
at,
184 is
You're at-
304.
so, right.
Which is two.
I'm not disagreeing
And
with
do
that.
2,000 less in knotweed treatments. Right?
Right, I have no problem with that. That sounds like a reasonable idea. I thought you wanted to cut everything else.
No.
He was
I get
he was
it,
coming
I
with
get
a
it.
different
come from a
Just coming
different
at it from a
angle.
different angle, yep.
All right. So I have no problem with that. I would think that would be reasonable. It gives us, what, 302,
304.
304, and we had 306 targeted? And we could
Yes.
find the other 2 grand someplace.
Is that a reasonable
reasonable?
way to do it?
Hey, Adam, can I ask another question, please?
Sure.
You said that there's another pot of money that is used for finishing up road work from last year, correct?
Yes.
Are you over budget, on budget, or under budget with that right now?
We will have a very small contingency right now, so we would, with this change, we would still be in budget, but it doesn't leave me a whole lot of leeway if Mass Road uncovers anything expensive.
Where have you gone over budget the last 2 years?
Significant with the,
Significant over budget. But we've
In
tried,
which areas? This, like, new road work? Was it finish up road work? You know, which bucket of money was it mainly where you went over?
so 2 years ago, it was primarily due to asphalt pricing changing mid-season. So it was kind of spread out amongst new and overlay. And then last year, reclaim was the biggest.
not,
Yeah, I think what I'm cautioning the entire select board to do is like try to like fit every single nickel and dime into this and understand that there still needs to be some buffer just in case.
well, I agree. We could, as before, we could have a price change in the middle of the year, you don't know, and then that throws a monkey wrench into everything, so. You could start a project and then many times we've run into issues when we start a project and then the things that come up, that cost us more money. So, somebody want to make that motion? Richard, you want to make your motion?
Sounds like kind of a complicated motion.
No, but your the motion is,
Well, we have to move to reconsider first, right?
yeah, but let's just, okay, yeah. But let's get the numbers down from where, so it's all figured out.
Right.
So what do you want to do? You want to do Knoll Crest, Ashland, Goldfinch, and Terrell. That accurate?
Yes. That looks to be
18, 21.
the cleanest plates.
Is that right, Jim? You got it? I come up.
Yeah,
with mine.
that's, okay, you take the 52, the 29, the 39, and add the 184 from those 2 other
Right.
things, and it comes up to 304.
So you're doing Ashland, Goldfinch, and Terrell.
Yes.
Ashland, Goldfinch, Terrell, and then the 184 that we've come up with.
It's the 117 plus the other number was, yeah.
Okay.
Is there a option for horse trading before you vote?
There's always an option.
Well, I'm under the opinion that what we do is we say, those are the roads that we recommend, and this is the amount of money we want you to do, this is how we want you to do it, and then if you come up with a better plan, as long as it covers what we're trying to accomplish tonight, I think that that's the way to go. As long as that 306 is in there to do that road, I don't care where it comes from.
I agree, and I only use those numbers because you said start from the bottom and work
Yeah.
up, so it's okay.
But I
with me.
don't care where it comes from. It's just as long as we come up with it and we get, but 306, which is, what we're saying is we're gonna do the Laurel Street. Or if we have to do part of Laurel Street and some other stuff to get the drainage to work right, well, I could see that too, but the 306 was targeted to Laurel Street.
And I might have missed it, so the 306 is comprised of you were using the 114 for insurance or the full?
It's 184. You came up with
114 plus 70 for the discretionary line, which is 184.
So then to get there, we just need,
The bottom three numbers,
the bottom
29,
three.
39,
Okay,
and
so,
52.
okay, I had circled Knollcrest, so Knollcrest stays.
Right.
Ashler and below leave. Okay.
That's 304.
Okay. Okay.
And I agree,
And
Peter,
and I will-
if you want to use some of that money up or do it a different way, as long as the numbers
As
stay.
long as the numbers stays on.
You have the discretion to do
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Okay, the first thing we need to do is make a motion for reconsideration of our vote we took on the
April 14th.
April 14th meeting.
I'll make that motion for reconsideration.
Seconded.
April 14th or 19th? May 19th.
I believe it was the
wasn't
14th. This
Yeah,
came up as
so it's 14th.
April 14th.
So motion by Mark, seconded by Richard. Roll call vote. Josh?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
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 Okay, so that motion, now we need a new motion.
Oh, am I doing it right now? Okay, I will move that, that DPW uses 114,000 in savings from the first 21-day pay periods, 70,000 in discretionary line items, and 52,000 from Terrell Hill, 29,000 from Goldfinch, and 39,000 for Knollcrest. Those monies to put towards development of Laurel Street and the reclamation of Laurel Street and the attached work, and giving the director discretion to use the money as long as he stays within the parameters, those financial parameters.
Seconded.
Can you repeat that? No.
Derek's
Okay, it's gonna be a roll call vote, so we had a motion by Jim, seconded by
Richard.
Richard. I do that all the time, I keep seeing Jim over there. That's a roll call vote. Josh?
Are we having a discussion?
Oh, we can?
Yeah. I honestly, and I'm going to say this again, I think that we're extending too much. I think that we should try to modify this. We should look at the lower half of Laurel and Ivy to get the drainage work in first. And in the following year, we do the subsequent work so that way we can finish up those pieces. Unfortunately, due to the last couple of years of being over budget, I think us getting this close and consuming money out of other areas, we're putting ourselves at risk to actually go over budget.
Okay. So, where a motion was made, is there anybody else who wants to comment on what he's saying? I don't disagree with what he's saying, but I think that we need to do something. I think the board that sat here last year made a decision to try to do something, and the voters turned it down.
And, well, we
The
also,
budget committee turned it down, and the voters turned it down. So we're trying to do something that is kind of out of the ordinary. We're trying to find monies to do something that not only was turned down by the voters, but turned down by the budget committee. So,
if I may add, we also decided to keep an eye on the DPW budget closer so that we don't have an overrun
Right.
this year. We catch it before it gets away.
any further discussion, comments? Motions on the floor, and a roll call. Josh?
No.
Mark?
No.
Me is a yes. Jim?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So that's the project that we'll go along with for now. And hopefully that stuff gets done. Is there anything else to come before the board?
On a related note.
Go ahead.
Just because I present my CIP soon, what I've requested this year for capital road funding was what I requested last year, which was 1.8 million, which was reduced at the board level. during our discussions, and then obviously reduced again by the budget committee. If, I'm sure this question will come up, if funding is not added for 2026, if I'm asked how we will proceed, this decision might change my answer a little bit. So I just want to make sure I'm not going out over my skis when I'm presenting to the CIP committee about how we're going to tackle if we have the same budget next year, or what we would do with the same budget next year. Would we put about 300,000-ish towards reclaim again for the next streets that are up? Do you want me to just tap dance and say, in a good year, this is what we would do, and here's my request?
I'd go for the full request, like you said. Personally, me, I'd put in what we didn't get this year plus next year. I'd make up the 900,000 because that's what you can't make up the 450. It's gone now. We're making up 300 by taking it from other places we probably shouldn't be doing. We don't normally do. So I'm concerned that we're getting behind. But that's what's going to happen. We're gotten behind. And, and it's unfortunate that, people, our roads are good in a lot of places, so people say, my road's okay, I'm not voting for this. And I think they did, a big disservice was done this year by the voters and by the budget committee. And Richard, I'm sorry, I know you were on the budget committee, but that's, they didn't help the town at all. So that's my soapbox.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Would you know your problem areas? Will things pop up likely before next budgets or during next budget cycle? Would you be, I guess my question, you asked that question, and a lot of it would be what you think, where we need to go, I guess. You'd probably say the same thing you did this year, right?
We have, unfortunately, more roads in failed status than we could ever hope to fund in a single year. So if the board wants to avoid, the next neighborhood up, or the rest of this neighborhood next year, that kind of thing, if the intention is place a quarter of the budget or whatever it is towards reclaim, I just want to make sure I'm on the party line with the board. I don't want to go to the CIP, say one thing, hey, we do maintenance first, and if we have money, we do reclaim. If that's not what we're doing, I just want to make sure that I'm putting that information out that you want me to be putting out to the CIP committee.
So I think it goes back to maintaining versus rebuilding, and there has to be some kind of a balance there where we're trying to do both as much as we can. But as long as if you don't maintain, then you're doing more rebuilding down the road. So I think that's the thing that people are missing, and I think that's maybe needs to be presented more or pushed harder. What do you want to do? Okay, you're worried about this year's taxes, but how about when we got to rebuild some of the bigger roads because we didn't maintain them? That becomes a real problem.
Would it be a fair portrayal for me to say the select board wants a portion of every year's budget to go towards rebuilding regardless of what the budget level is, and here's all the reasons why you should add to the budget in addition to that, but we don't want to go any year.
That's the way I would look at it.
Because there is that, backward slide if we do put too much towards rebuild and not enough towards maintenance, but.
I mean, we're gonna have 7 beautiful long roads and mud roads, the rest of them on all the side roads. I don't think that's a wise way to do it. I think we've been slow on the side roads for a long time, and I don't think
So did you get the direction? Do you think you got?
I think so. I think I can.
Derek, do you have things put in?
Needle.
Okay, anything else? Motion?
Motion adjourned.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Jimmy for a discussion. Seeing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes. That concludes tonight's meeting.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Josh.
Thanks, Josh.